So, Kevin Mitnick, thanks for doing this.
Great to be here, Kevin. It's a great name, Kevin.
Yes. One thing we have very much in common, that and our love for all things hacking and computer security.
That's right. That's right.
You are definitely the most renowned hacker of our time. There's no doubt about it. And a lot of people wonder, you know, where did you learn all this? How did you learn to become a master social engineer? Is this something that you practiced growing up, or?
Well, before I became involved with computers, I was involved in a hobby called phone phreaking, which is basically like hacking the telephone system and doing really cool tricks with the phone network. And I was first introduced to social engineering by another phone phreaker, who basically told me that he can call certain departments within the phone company, and by understanding their terminology, their lingo, the way they do business, that you could obtain information by pretending to be one of them. So that's where I first got started, and I was kind of self-taught. Once I learned the basic of the fundamentals of how it worked, then I just developed that skill, if you want to call it a skill.
How did you turn that into computers? When did you start getting involved with PCs?
When I was about 17, well, that was before 81. It was a couple of years earlier, back in 1979, is another student at high school who incidentally was an amateur radio operator, because I had a hobby of telephones and amateur radio, which is kind of like advanced CB. And I met this other student who said, you know, I'd probably really like computers. And at first I wasn't really interested. And then he introduced me to the computer instructor who asked, well, have you had trigonometry and blah, blah, blah? I said, no, I haven't taken those courses yet. He says, well, you can't get into computer class anyway. So then my friend will show him some of the stuff you can do with the phone, Kevin. So I showed the teacher some of these cool tricks, right? Even accessing computers through DTMF, and he waived the prerequisites to let me into class.
When you did some of your hacking and social engineering, did you ever enlist the help of friends? Did you have like a community that you were part of?
Very small, one or two other people. And usually, like when I was doing a lot of the hacking, I'd have like one other friend, and we'd be working together as a team.
So how, going back to when you started to commit these crimes and you were on the run, how long were you out and about for on the FBI? You were on the FBI's most wanted list, were you not?
No, that's a rumor.
Oh, that is a rumor. Okay.
No, I think I'm the only guy where they had a wanted poster, U.S. Marshals.
Okay, U.S.
Added wanted poster. I was never on the 10 most wanted list. That's a rumor started by John Markoff.
Okay.
I was a fugitive for about 2.5 to 3 years.
Most people, they're a fugitive for 3 days. How did you stay underground for 3 years?
Well, by adopting new identities, and I would get a new identity.
How would you go about doing that? I mean, the internet nowadays, you can go into Google, you type a new identity, you can learn how to create and forge documents. I mean, where did you get this information?
Well, I just used to read a lot of underground books when I was a kid.
BBSs and things like that?
Not BBSs. This was like real, like Paladine Press, Eden Press. I was always interested in learning things that you're not supposed to know, type of thing, right? And there was a book called The Paper Trip that basically explained the whole system of identity in America, of how it starts with the birth certificate. So the key is, if you could obtain either a counterfeit or a real birth certificate, you can become that person. So there's a flaw in the system in the states where if somebody dies in a state, a different state than they're born in, there's usually not a cross-reference, maybe between California and Nevada or sister states, but if somebody is born in D.C. and dies in California, there's no cross-reference. So the government really doesn't know. In a lot of cases, if somebody has a work history, their death will be reported to the Social Security Administration. So they have a thing called the Social Security Death Index. But for infants, people that are 1, 2, 3 years of age when they die, there's no record that's created. So the key is, if you can find an infant that died in a different state than they were born in, you could become them. And that's what I did.
So how many of these different identities did you go through?
About 3 or 4. So I knew the system so well, and I knew their vulnerabilities, so I exploited them to create any identity I wanted. I'd go move from city to city and obtain legitimate jobs and to support myself.
Now, how did you know when it was time to switch identities? Or did you feel like pressure, like this one might give you up, or?
Well, actually, in my first time, I left that job and I figured, well, if I'm changing jobs, I have to go look for something new anyway, so maybe it's a good time to switch up.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, did any of this actually, your identities didn't give you away in the end? It was
No.
cell phone triangulate?
Cell phone, by tracking me through cell phone usage.
Okay. But they did find you, the wallet that you gave me actually about a year ago that was the wallet that you had all your fake IDs in, was it not?
Yes, absolutely.
So how did
That was stupid, because the number one rule is you never carry any identity documents with different names in your wallet. But see, I had this wallet in my home when the FBI was executing a search warrant.
I see.
You'd never carry it on you.
Right.
That'd be stupid. Right.
When you spent the time in prison, you said you were in 8 months solitary confinement.
Yes.
What was that like? Tell me the whole rundown. You're locked in a
Okay, in your
room.
mind's eye, okay, you're in the room the size of a bathroom, say 5 by 9.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's maybe a 60 or 70 watt bulb. Okay, there's a bunk, a toilet, and a metal sink. It kind of reminds me. We travel a lot between Las Vegas and San Francisco, and we sometimes stop at I-5, and there's a particular gas station right past Livermore that has the same toilet and the same sink.
Oh, that must be terrible.
Yeah, as that was, in federal detention, right?
Right.
And I'm going, oh my God, where they buy this at a prison? So I always want to get out of there quickly, right? So in any event, you pretty much are locked up. Mm-hmm. It's locked down 23 out of 24 hours a day.
Okay.
It's, high security. It's where they put you if you're La M, like the Mexican mafia, or you're, a law enforcement agent, or you're a high security threat.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there bars, or is it just solid, completely enclosed?
Just completely enclosed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you have a window at all?
We have a trap door. Yeah, the window is like yay big, and I mean, if you put your face up to it, it would be about this big, right? And then they have just a solid metal door and a trap door about this way for food.
So when do you get fed? 3 times a day, or is it?
Yeah, like they wake you up in the morning, and you eat, and then it's room service.
Okay. I wasn't.
It's room service.
Now, I mean,
you don't have to tip. It's cool.
You hear a lot of things though about how they mistreat prisoners and things like that. I was wondering if that ever happened. I mean, was there times where you didn't get food? Was there times when they didn't let you out and kept you in for several days?
Yeah. The Bureau of Prisons. I mean, it's just a matter of what guards are working at what particular time. They're supposed to let you out for an hour a day. Sometimes they let you out maybe for 5 days for the hour a day. During that 8 months. So. There could be a security issue going on or something going on in the institution, right? Mm-hmm. So basically, you're in their control, 24/7, and there's nothing you can do. But what my argument is, it was the reason that they placed me under this high security condition was all bullshit. Mm-hmm. I mean, to allege that I can call up some telephone number at NORAD and whistle some codes to start a nuclear holocaust is like absurd.
It's just like propaganda to keep you locked up.
Yeah,
basically.
it was. I more than what conditions I was under, which sucked. Okay, imagine yourself in the bathroom, 70 to 90 watt bulb, 5 by 9, and you leave it for an hour a day. Mm-hmm. You probably couldn't lock yourself in there for 2 hours without going a little bit crazy, right? So, but the justification the federal government was able to use was ludicrous. It was something out of a comic strip. See, that's what still boggles my mind today, right? How did they do that? How did they get away with it?
How did you keep your sanity the entire time?
Well, I spent my time working with my lawyer and reading up on case law, rules of criminal procedure. So I was doing a hell of a lot of reading. I had an AM/FM Walkman because on commissary, they call it commissary there, where you can buy food and stuff. They let you buy AM/FM Walkman. So I used to listen to radio all the time.
Did you get out in the general public ever? I mean, you were only in there for 8 months, so you were mixed in with the general public of the other criminals.
Well, they call it general population.
General population for the rest of the time.
Well, yeah, in that case, I ended up pleading out, and I was put into a prison camp for 4 months.
Okay. What's it like going to prison as a hacker? I mean, there's murders, there's all different types of people that are true criminals here, not just,
right.
I mean, as a hacker coming in there, you probably don't match with a lot of these types of people.
Not really. A lot of people want to pick your brain because they want to be able to use technology to commit crimes when they get out.
Did you make friends while you were in there? Talk to anybody?
Yeah. There was a few people that I don't have any really contact with them today, but there was people that you're tight with that are friends.
Right.
You play cards, you hang out, you just talk.
Did you ever get picked on at all being in prison or anything like
No,
that?
I got into a few fights. Federal is a lot different than state. I mean, it's between night and day. Usually in federal, you're pretty safe because there's always correctional officers around. But I did get in a few fights. It was over somebody that took some of my property, and in that environment, unless you go and reclaim it, even if you're going to get your ass kicked, you got to do it.
Right.
Otherwise, you'll be a mark to be taken advantage of.
And
so it happened on a few occasions.
What happens at that point if you weren't to go get your ass kicked and you become a mark? I mean, what are people going to do to you?
Just take your stuff all the time because you're not going to do anything.
They just know they can punk you around, basically.
Right, exactly. So if someone goes and takes your stuff and you go claim it and you go and take the first punch, they're going to know, well, there's going to be a problem if I do this with this guy.
Right.
Even if you lose, it still creates a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's a jungle. Whenever I think of the correctional system, I think of was it AC/DC, Welcome to the Jungle?
No, that was
no, Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses. Yeah.
Just craziness.
Well, not as much as in state or county jail. In county jail, it'd be if you went into county jail, the first thing they'd do is look at those tennis shoes, and then some guy of a different race, probably 10 times bigger than you, all muscle, to say, I want those shoes.
I just get the shit beat out of me pretty much is what you're saying.
Right, but if you give them the shoes without fighting for it,
it's worse than...
It's worse.
Really?
It's worse, yeah. So
you would think you hand up the property, everything's going to be okay, but that's not the case.
That's not the case, because what happens is now you are a mark for everybody to take anything you get.
Wow.
Right.
So now you're all done with that chapter of your life. That's pretty much all closed.
Absolutely.
What are you doing now?
Well, I started a security company called Defensive Thinking. It's myself and one other guy. It's a consultancy. It's professional services. I travel around the world. I do talks, mostly on social engineering and other information security, or about myself. And I just co-authored a book called The Art of Deception, which is kind of the social engineering Bible.
I have the book.
Right. Good. And I'm starting a new book this month called The Art of Intrusion, where I'm trying to convince people that have done any black hat hacking to come forward and tell me their best story. The salacious, the sexy, the innovative, the clever.
Right.
Because I want to tell their story of the attack, because it's an interesting story, maybe a little bit about their personal background. Then I want to analyze the vulnerabilities that were exploited, and then discuss what countermeasures businesses and individuals can take to ensure it doesn't happen to them. So that's basically the format of the new book: story, analysis, countermeasures.
Yeah, so what if someone is watching this and they want to send you their stories? What email address should they send it to, or where should they go?
HACKS at defensivethinking.com.
Okay.
All together. Defensivethinking.com. Hacks.
Gotcha.
Hacks at defensivethinking.com. Yeah.
Kevin Mitnick, thank you very much.
Hey. Great to be here, Kevin. Thank
Excellent.
you. Hope it was a good interview.
Very good. We'll see you again soon.
Okay, thank you.
Right.